Hey everyone, welcome to this
Hello.
edition of welcome to this edition of Travel Odysseys, and we are thrilled to have you here with us
Yes.
to experience all the amazing things that travel has to offer. And in this particular episode, we're going to be focusing upon the top 5 travel tips or smart travel hacks.
Yes.
As we've learned through our own experiences just traveling both domestically in the United States, but also overseas to various places in Europe.
Yes.
So we've learned a lot of things, sometimes the hard way,
Yes.
but also sometimes through research. And we hope that you will be able to benefit from the many lessons that we have learned while going on excursions throughout the world.
Yes. And we look forward to hearing from you and any of your experiences too, if you'd like to share.
Yes. So we're looking forward to the first people to join our chat here. But
Yes.
in the meantime, we know that many of you will be watching this after the live stream is done.
Mhm.
Feel free afterwards to leave a comment below this channel. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Travel Odysseys. Hit the bell icon right nearby so that way you will be notified whenever we release a new video. And we really, really appreciate your support.
Yes.
Without you, we would just be preaching to the ethos.
Yeah.
And
Talking to a screen.
yes. All right. So we're going to proceed whether or not anybody joins us on this chat. Of course, we hope people do. But the very first item on our top 5 list is
Ba-ba-da-ba.
pack wisely.
Yes.
Very, very important.
Yes.
All right. When packing a suitcase, you have to take some things into account. First of all, you have to make certain that your luggage is within the weight limits set by the airline.
Yes.
Otherwise, they will charge you extra money for having baggage that weighs too much.
And one thing to really look at is make sure you know which airlines you're taking and what the requirements are, for not only for size but for weight, because there are different airlines that will have different requirements. So make sure you check that ahead of time.
And also look into the type of climate that you're traveling to. For example, if you are traveling to Iceland, you probably don't want to bring nothing but t-shirts with you.
Yeah.
You want to wear something that will keep you nice, warm, and cozy.
Yes. And for some of us, that would be heavier things than for others of us. So just know your level of comfort when it comes to temperatures.
But at the same time, leave room in your baggage for those gifts that you might decide to purchase for loved ones at home.
Yes.
You got to leave room in your baggage. I mean, you have to remember that typically you're paying for one suitcase to be checked in at the airline and you have one carry-on. But if you bring too many things, you might not have room for those special gifts that you're buying for people.
Yes. And they might actually be waiting for their gifts. So make sure you leave room ahead of time. So I have an experience with this. On our first trip we took internationally, we went to Iceland, England, and then to Paris, France. And I overpacked way, way, way too much. In fact, when we were in England, and it took me sitting on the suitcase to close it. So, and I was throwing all my body weight onto it,
which isn't much.
Well, thank you. Still, I was trying to close it, and I couldn't close it. And this was halfway through the trip, so actually had to mail clothes back. So we found a post office in London and actually mailed clothes back. So I could at least have some breathing room and my luggage wouldn't bust.
Mhm.
So I learned the hard way, and it cost about $150. I can't remember how many pounds it was, maybe 90. But the fellow there was very, very helpful. I'm sure he thought it was American was packing too much. So just I've learned to pack much better now.
Mhm.
So.
I have to say, I don't think that you were the only one because I recall a sign being outside the post office saying, "Have you packed too much?"
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's for my kind of people. So
it might be a more common problem than what many of us realize.
Yeah, and one thing I learned too is you can wear something twice. So it's okay to wear the same thing twice on a trip.
Absolutely. So that's Number 5 in our list here is to pack wisely,
Yeah.
take into account any fees that airlines may charge in case you pack too much. Leave space for those gifts that you might want to purchase, either for yourself or for other people. And take into account the weather where you're going to be.
Yeah. And one other thing about that too, make sure you have all your medications or vitamins in your carry-on. I also include a pair of socks and a pair of underwear. So if they lose your check-in bag, you'll have something. Some people might even have a change of clothes. I usually don't have room for that in my carry-on, but at least having some, pair of socks and a pair of underwear in your carry-on can be helpful. Again, in case they lose your luggage.
And personally, I like putting my electronics into my carry-on because I always feel, they tend to throw the suitcases around because they're under a tight time constraint to get the aircraft moving.
Yeah.
So I don't like the idea of my camera and my other electronic gear being in my suitcase.
Yeah.
So I put it in my carry-on.
Yep. So anything that's fragile or anything like that. Of course, it has to be, if it's anything liquid or anything, make sure you know what the requirements are. They might be loosening that a little bit as far as what you can carry on. But I have had to have things thrown away because they were too big in my carry-on. So just check with the airline.
Yeah, and check with the regulations of wherever it is that you're flying from.
Yeah.
All right, number 4 on our list is be frugal. In other words, try to save money as much as reasonably possible whenever you travel.
Yeah.
Traveling isn't cheap,
No.
especially when you're going to overseas, traveling across oceans. Just something to be aware of. Try to cut down on costs as much as possible. Personally, we have no qualms about staying at Airbnbs.
No.
And Airbnbs are basically, there's a website called Airbnb.com, I think. And you can sign up for it and you can go ahead and schedule yourself to stay at people's homes. So this is a way in which some people make extra money, but it tends to be much less expensive than staying in a hotel.
Yeah.
And we took advantage of this when we were staying in London, when we were staying in Ireland. In fact, I think for the entire time that we were in Dublin, which was maybe 5 full days, we were staying at an Airbnb.
Yeah, and you meet great people too. So because they not only travel themselves, but or they're interested in traveling. So you meet people of your own tribe.
Yes.
The one thing about being frugal too is you're going to spend money when you travel, things that you haven't planned on. They come up. And I guess as the saying goes, pack half of what you think you should and pack double the amount of money you think you should, because things will come up. A cab fare you weren't planning on, things will come up. So just prepare financially for that as much as possible.
Definitely. Another thing to consider is whether or not you need travel insurance.
Yes.
Now, this is a little bit of a tricky subject. I don't want to tell you don't get travel insurance, because if I were to do that, then of course you plan a trip and then something happens and then you're going to regret following that advice. So really, it's up to you, your judgment call about whether or not you want to purchase travel insurance. Me personally, I don't like it for most of the traveling that we do. However, if we were traveling into a place that was, say, politically unstable or has had a history of military conflicts, for example, if we were traveling to Israel, which is a place that we plan to visit one day, I would definitely get travel insurance, because that region is known to, get itself involved in military conflicts. So you want to be careful. You never know if something might happen. For example, I recall a few years back a volcano erupted in Iceland, and that caused major traffic delays. And people who weren't even planning on going to Iceland, their flight was still originally planned to go over Iceland, and many of those flights got delayed, and that might have interfered with their hotel accommodations that they had overseas. So travel insurance may be very, very important. Personally, though, I tend to veer away from getting travel insurance unless I know that it's something that is considered a wise thing to do when traveling to a particular area.
Yeah, I feel a little differently about this. A couple things to look at though for travel insurance is to be very, very clear what it covers and what it does not cover, because they will challenge you if if it doesn't fall within their requirements. So make sure. I know that in some big trips and things, if you're going with a group, sometimes they'll require travel insurance. But if you're doing it on your own, like we do, it's much more an individual decision. Another thing you might want to think about for travel insurance is if you're taking care of a loved one, or they're not doing well, or they might not be around much longer, you might want to take out travel insurance if you need to come back to, for any emergency that would come up with that. So just something to think about when it comes to travel insurance.
So ultimately, it's make up your mind about it. Do your research ahead of time. Make up your own decision about whether or not it is a good idea for you yourself, and move on from there.
Yep.
So
very good. So
yay.
Number three.
Number three. He who saves the most does not win.
Necessarily.
All right. So for many people, when they travel, it might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to visit a particular country that they've always wanted to visit.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be so frugal that you're cheating yourself out of various things that you can do in that other country.
Yeah.
For example, we were in New York City this past November of 2017, and we splurged. We spent extra money to go to the Russian tea room for Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are overseas, Thanksgiving is an American holiday. I guess celebrating the landing of the Pilgrims.
Yeah, it started to become a little controversial now.
Yes.
But it's a huge holiday, and this is number 3 on our list, and it might sound a little contradictory to number 4. I'm sorry, to number 4 about being frugal, but sometimes spending money on experiences is totally worth it, because as we always say, would we regret not doing this once we get home? Especially if you're right there in front of something and it took so long to get there. You either saved money or you had to take the plane to get there, car, walk, horse, however it took for you to get there. And then you're like, nah, I want to save $25 and not do it, or even $100, whatever your level of comfort is. If it's standing right in front of you and you have an opportunity, it might be something to look at. So even though it sounds like number 3 and number 4 are contradictory, welcome to life. A lot of decisions to make.
So again, if it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, we recommend going for it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times are you going to be in that place again?
That's right. That's the biggest question. That's the biggest question.
All right. Number 2. Use your time well.
Yay.
Yes. Yay. You are investing a lot of time, energy, and financial capital to go ahead and visit this place. You don't want to be standing around in line for 3 hours.
Yes.
So avoid lines as much as possible.
Yes.
When we were in Paris, we did get this special tour to go up to the Eiffel Tower. And the tour enabled us to bypass most of the line. I mean, there was one line just to get tickets to the Eiffel Tower, then another line to get inside of it.
Yes.
We were able to cut through half of that.
Yes.
So sometimes, spending that extra money for a special tour, for a special guided experience is well worth the investment. And that kind of taps again into number 3, he who saves the most is not necessarily winning.
Yeah.
So investing in a little bit to skip the line is very well worth it.
Definitely. And I maybe if you're like me, I really detest standing in line, especially when you see people shooting by you or walking by you and they go right into it. But yeah, because if you think of it, time is especially on a vacation is almost as important as money. So you have this this allotted time. How do you want to spend it? Now,
Yes.
when we travel, we usually are gone from sun up to sundown almost. I mean, we're going the whole time. But even if you don't enjoy doing that and you need to take some breaks during the day, which we've done before too, but generally speaking, we don't. But even if you have to do that, saving time ahead of time and doing a little bit of planning, especially to not stand in line, is definitely worth the upfront time before you leave.
Mhm. I recall when we were also in Paris, we got a special museum pass,
Yeah,
which enabled us to get right into the Louvre. So,
exactly.
and there was a huge line in front of that just to get tickets to get inside. So,
It was huge. And
yeah.
we walked right by
Mhm.
everybody. So definitely worth it. Something else to think about, and this is depending upon your financial situation. Some people will choose to have an individual or an independent tour guide. And that's, that's if you have the financial resources to do that. But then you can bypass a lot of lines, and sometimes they'll know back ways to get to places. So I know a friend of mine, actually, when she was in Rome, she and her family got an independent tour guide, and it saved them on time. But again,
Mhm.
that's extra money, and you have to decide whether that's within your financial means or not.
Mhm. And one thing that I do regret when we were in Paris is I really wanted to see the catacombs underneath Paris, but beforehand, it didn't occur to me to get tickets because every single time that we arrived at the catacombs, and we tried like 2 or 3 different times, the line in front of us was 3 hours long.
Yeah,
So that's a regret that I have from the time that we were in Paris. I do want to go back to Paris again to have another shot at that. But when we do return to Paris, I'm going to make certain that we have those tickets way ahead of time.
yeah. And one thing also to remember too is that traveling is I think a lot like life. It's a learning
Yes.
experience.
Hmm.
So with each time that you go, you're like, oh, I did that last time. I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish we had done this the last time, and now we're going to do it. So it's a learning experience either way. So I think that's part of the fun too.
Definitely. All right. The next on the list is, ooh, this is number one.
Do 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 do
Number
do.
one is be safe. Very important because you only have one life. You need to protect yourself. You need to protect your life. You need to not get sick. You need to avoid any injuries that may impact you for the rest of your life. And there's a few ways of staying safe. I broke it down into two subcategories. One being physical safety, and the other being financial safety.
Yeah.
So since we've already brought up physical safety, personally, we try to always pay attention to our instincts.
Yeah.
You know, you might be so excited about running around doing different things, trying to cram as much in as you can during the time that you're there, that you might tend to ignore your instinct.
Yeah.
But we tried to listen to it. There's been a couple times where we want to explore an area, but we just kind of got a bad vibe about it.
Yeah.
I recall a time in well, maybe I shouldn't state the
Don't say where
place.
it is, but I there was one place
Yes.
where we were walking along a river.
Mhm.
This was out of the country, this was away from the United States. Just walking into this area just felt a bad vibe,
Mhm.
and I couldn't put my finger on it. It just didn't feel good, so we
Yeah.
turned around and walked back. I mean, looking at it, it seemed okay, but there was something
Mhm.
not good about it. So definitely,
Mhm.
definitely trust that.
Yeah, it was kind of dark, and there was some
Yeah,
graffiti around that we didn't see in other places,
yeah,
and it just looked, very easy for somebody unsavory to be hiding in there.
yeah.
So we decided to listen to our instincts and walk back.
Yeah, and which was a bummer because we
Yeah.
wanted to keep going, but safety is always number one.
Mhm. And let's see here. Finances.
Yeah.
You have to be careful when you're traveling because there's some infamous stories of people having their wallets picked out of their pockets,
Mhm.
having their purses stolen. Um, Luckily, we have not experienced that as of yet, and
Knock
hopefully,
wood.
yep, knock wood. Hopefully, we never will. But for ladies, what should they do with their purses when they're on, say, a subway or train?
Well, definitely, have a cross thing across in front of you. Some women will put things in their bras, some will put it in your shoes, but definitely don't keep it out in like a pocket or anything. One thing that happened to a friend of mine is they were on a public transit. I think it was a train maybe, and they pack people so tight in there. And someone was going through her purse because with some purses it opens on the top, and there was someone that was going in, and because there was another body pushing up against her at the time, she didn't realize that they were going through her purse. Actually, someone across the way signaled to her that somebody was going through her purse. I don't think she got it in time, but just be aware of that. Also, and it can be difficult to try not to scream tourists on you,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's easy to do. And so, having the maps out and doing this
Mhm.
type of thing can make you very vulnerable. And there are some cases where uh, some countries are known for children approaching adults and asking for money, and that acts as a diversion. And then an adult would come and pick their pocket
Mhm.
or take that way. So just be aware of certain things in different cultures as well.
Yes. Also, be careful if you're wearing a backpack
Yeah.
because personally, if I have a backpack on me, I don't actually wear it on my back. If I'm on the train or a subway, I have it sitting on my lap,
Yeah.
or I have it right in front of me. Because if you have it on your back, it's very easy for somebody to unzip something and start going through what you have in there.
Exactly. And again, sometimes people will create diversions
Mhm.
to try and get in there, or they'll be, oh, I'm sorry. And then another person, while you're talking to the person that accidentally ran into you,
Mhm.
they have another friend that's coming from behind. It can happen very, very quickly. I'm not going to say any names, but there are some cities in the world that are well known for pickpocketing. So just some things to be aware of.
Also, another issue sometimes is RFID skimming.
Yes.
RFID stands for radio frequency identification. And many credit cards have chips in them these days. And if a person has, say, an iPad with them, they can run an iPad near you and they can pick up on your credit card information. It's very easy to do
Yeah.
through the radio frequency signals. Now, there's a few ways in which you can protect yourself from that. One way is to use RFID ID card protectors. There it is. And basically, there's a foil inside of this which helps to, it doesn't completely block the RFID signals, but it helps
Like scramble it a little bit.
scramble and lessen the intensity of it.
Yeah.
So I have these around every single credit card and ATM card.
It has a chip.
Yep. And also something to consider is they make these for women as purses, but this is an RFID money belt. So you could always have your passport in here, your credit cards. This just ties around your waist. It can be underneath your clothing. And it's, I guess somebody could cut this strap, but if they don't know they have it on, that you have it on you, it's going to be very difficult for them to target you.
Yeah. I think that sometimes people are just looking for low-hanging fruit.
Mhm.
So anything that you can try and protect and hide is a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah. The ladies one of that Daniel showed a second ago is goes across the front, and I usually will keep my hand, it's usually in front of me, I'll keep my hand on it. And again, I'm very aware if people are bumping into me or are in my bubble. But one thing also, especially going to some cultures, Americans generally have a bigger privacy bubble. Like, we like space between us. In some countries and stuff, that's not possible. So their bubbles are smaller anyway. So that's something to be aware of. There's some like in big cities, for example, you're not going to be able to have a huge privacy bubble around you, your personal space around you.
Mhm.
So that's something to keep in mind too. So they might be more comfortable being up next to you, whereas American might be like, "Why are you in my space?" So even those cultural things are important to look into as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so those are our 5 travel tips or smart travel hacks.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's a bit of a bummer. Nobody joined our live stream, but that's fine. Go ahead and leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And always remember,
Life is sweet for the bold.
So adventure with us on Travel Odysseys. Thank you again for watching and hope you have a great day.
We'll see you next time.
Yes. Exit stream.